Welcome back to Biomed Buddy. We're going to continue with the maintenance on the Fyrite analyzer. Please note that this one is set in flat. That is not how you want to store it. The things I'm about to show you is what happens when the instrument is stored in a flat position. This case is designed so the Fyrite only goes in one spot, and you want to keep it in that, it'll go in that spot, and you want to keep it set up like this. The reason being is because the Fyrite material is very corrosive and it eats up the plastic. We are going to do some preventive maintenance on this particular unit, or if you prefer, rebuild it. It's all a matter of terminology. First of all, let's go and see what's in the PM kit. First thing we're going to look at is the string, or moisture absorber, or whatever other technical name you want to put to it. A Fyrite filter. That goes right in here, and when you're running the unit, when you're taking a measurement, you should have that damp. I'm not saying wet, but damp. It affects the CO2 rating. This is the hose that generally you use to take a sample from an incubator or some other device. First, we're going to show you how to check this to make sure that it's operating. Simply by holding one end with your finger, plug in the end. You see my bulb should stay collapsed. If it had a leak on it, which I'm going to simulate, it comes out. As long as this stays flat, when you put your finger in and block the output, all this is sealed and it's working well. And that's all the maintenance that is required to this, which is simply replacing this cloth, which you'll have plenty of cloth by the time you do this once or twice. What also is included in the PM kit is a little indicator. I personally don't know why it's included, probably for something to add to it, because you don't really need to replace that each time. Also, you have some gaskets. Here's one gasket. We should show you where that goes in a minute. Here's another gasket. This goes on the bottom. This is a plunger. This is what stops the Fyrite from coming out of the analyzer. And you got another O-ring. And you got 4 screws. That's pretty much all there is to the PM kit. Now let's get to the Fyrite analyzer. I've cleaned this up a little, but I wanted to show you some of the problems you're going to have. One, it's the top. See, the top doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't push down. It's locked in. That's because it's been stored in a down position. The Fyrite has got into it or something, and now it's just a sticky top, which we're going to correct that. You have 4 screws, and they need to be removed. Keep in mind, as I mentioned before, that whenever you turn the Fyrite in this direction, it should not leak out. We're going to be checking that later. Let's remove the four screws. And of course, I've already had this removed, so for me, it's only going to be 2. And it is off. Inside you see this rubber plunger, which we're going to replace. That is the piece that if you keep this stored downward, that's going to get all eaten up and start leaking. You'll see black little pieces of rubber in your Fyrite solution. Well, we're going to be replacing that. And this is the inner gasket. We're going to be replacing that. And of course, that's the inside, and you can see there's nothing really technical about this, or highly technical. It's just a glass cylinder, and we're going to clean that up. Right now we're going to take the bottom off also. Now I personally would do one at a time, but for this video we're going to do both sides. Remove the 4 screws. I don't know if you can see on my hand, but you can see what happens with these rubber gaskets. And underneath here, you will find another rubber membrane gasket. And you can see how it's tore. And of course what happens is then that leaks down into here and causes you all sorts of little problems. And that's all there is to the disassembly of a Fyrite analyzer. Now we're going to rebuild it. I simply wash this out with warm soapy water. Usually rinse it with distilled or something. I just do it out of to be cautious. There's nothing to it. I just cleaned it up. We're going to start with the top. This rubber gasket needs to be replaced. And it's not really hard to come off. I don't even know that I need to use a screwdriver. It pops right off. You see how this black stuff gets on your fingers. And that's why I say it's when you're storing it upside down. And that's what I think happens. Eventually you'll find little pieces of it all over the place. Okay, and of course you have the new one that goes on it. And I'm going to wipe this down a little. And we want to make sure that this is still sticking. So we're going to pop that out. Why doesn't it want to come out? This is a little tight one. That's what you get for there. Now we can see what happens. All this salt material. And give me a second, we're going to clean this off. Now we've cleaned this off a little, you can see the salt is gone, and you see the spring. This is what, of course, allows it to pop in and off. And you can still see the salt inside of the top lid. Now that this is cleaned up a little, we'll reassemble it. First, I will tell you that a lot of times you'll see little cracks and so forth around this end piece. As long as it doesn't leak, it's not a problem. Throw that back on. Put in my top. Which is actually easier than what I'm making it look like to be. Simply trying to stay away from so make sure you get a good picture. Okay, it's back together. And of course you can see now I can push it and it springs back and forth with no problem. Now let's reassemble this top part. I'm going to put my gasket in. Grab a new gasket. Put in the gasket. Nothing complicated. Flops right in there, right into place. And then we're going to put the top back on. Of course, you line up the screws. Not that you can't really screw it together wrong. There's nothing you can really do wrong here that I can see. And put in this, line up the screws a little. And we're only going to put 2 in for right now. Now that we've got our 4 screws in, let's start working on the bottom side. Here's the old gasket. You can see the torn material. I'll throw that away. Now we're going to put a new gasket inside. Here's the new gasket. Relatively simple. Just throws it, goes right in. And line up the screws again. And put the screws back. From habit, I try to do it counterclockwise so that it goes on. I don't think it matters in this particular case. You know, kind of screw one side and then the other side and go back and forth. Like none of these are tight yet. They're just kind of habit more than anything. As you can see, this is not too complicated. I'm going to go around and tighten these screws right now and add some Fyrite to the solution. I will tell you there's different concentrations of Fyrite. Also, I keep on talking about CO2. There is the O2 analyzer. It's basically the same analyzer, just different Fyrite solution in it. One for oxygen is blue in color. CO2 is red. Alright, now let's add some Fyrite to this. I am going to use some gloves. I'm going to put some Fyrite solution into this unit. Well, there might be an easy way. That's just the way I do it. I mean, I suppose you could do it before you put the top cap off. I guess I don't really care. I just pour it in from the top. I'm just thinking to myself, I'm wondering if that's why sometimes I get that salt buildup. When you get that salt buildup and you have trouble pushing this in, just take the top apart and clean it with distilled water. I do it somewhat routinely. I have to think about that. And essentially you need to fill it up full enough so that you can get within when you zero it, you have enough range for your scale. And these are used bottles, ones I've used for other instruments, so alright, I'm going to add a little more. And again, I might even rethink how I'm adding this for future reference, because maybe this is why I get salt in them all the time. And by the way, if you run out of Fyrite, or if you start getting low, you just put a couple drops of distilled water in it. Won't hurt it at all. And that looks like about right for me. Tab more. It's easier. I have a tendency to overdo, not underdo. Alright, now of course you can see that I've got enough range so when I zero it that I can go up and put my zero where zero needs to be. Now, I'm going to clean this up a little simply by, I'm going to type my zero right here. Now again, if you wanted to replace this, feel free. I personally don't see the need, it's just a piece of plastic. Let's clean off some of this Fyrite that's dripped down here, this solution. I'm going to tip it up a little. And the checks that I'm going to make now is that I should see, and we're going to use a white piece of paper here, see that I get no drips from it. I should not get any drips. Again, if you start getting drips from it, one way is to go back and make sure your plunger and all that is free of that salt solution and just clean it with distilled water. This should last me probably a year at least. We do our preventive maintenance every year. And now we are going to check them and see how accurate it is. I believe we covered this earlier, but we're going to do it anyway. First, I'm going to zero it. Zero. I'm going to get in the picture a little so you can see what I am doing. I'm not saying this is a good technique as far as cleanliness, but hey, we're going to take a measurement. We are zero. I am going to push this button down, and we're going to take a sample. The sample we're going to take is of our breath. Take a deep breath. there you go. It's not quite 4.5, but you get the idea. Thank you much for attending this session with Biomed Buddy.